Jesus not only showed up 2,000 years ago, he continues to show up today, here in our city, calling us as his followers to sacrificially embody his love here in this place in which we live. Through Advent Conspiracy, these are some of the new ministries we were able to start this year. A foster parent support network, connecting families across Portland who care for our city's most vulnerable children. A refugee ministry, serving 20 Bhutanese families recently relocated to southeast Portland. And Escape Ministry, mentoring vulnerable youth and building relationship while teaching them how to skateboard.
Eric and I went to the Imago Day Arts Retreat. Josh Butler, he shared this video of this orchestra in Paraguay. And there's this community that's really close to a landfill, and they were reclaiming a lot of the trash and using it to build instruments. And these kids had something that they loved and they were passionate about, that was challenging them. It was educating them, it gave them community. And we're like, man, skateboarding has changed us, and there's so many extra skateboards lying around, or materials to build ramps, and what if we could like recycle them and distribute them to people that want to learn to skateboard?
Skateboarders are a really tight crew that could push each other academically and physically, that it could be a really positive thing for a lot of kids. And our hope too is to become a role model to show Christ to them. We're able to make a connection with Reynolds High School, which this spring had they had a school shooting there. So we went in there and decided to do a clinic, and it ended up being a great time to just engage, make relationships. I felt like we had a really good connection with the kids, and they really embraced what we were doing.
As I went through the missional grant process, for me it helped me to kind of focus my thinking. I told the board that interviewed me that even if the grant didn't come, that work was so beneficial that it was well worth the process. And it's a lot of why we're doing what we're doing, is that they were so encouraging and helpful.
We walked through the doors of becoming foster parents 23 years ago. Being foster parents and bringing vulnerable children into your home is quite difficult. You need a community around you. We saw it in great support groups, but the component of your faith was not something that was allowed to be talked about. So we saw this huge need as God's rising up people to reach out to support them with both their faith and their calling.
Our dream is really that every family at Imago that's involved in foster care and adoption would have a team wrapped around them for support, and then also to begin to develop connections with other churches that are involved in foster care and help them to develop support groups as well. Last year we invited foster parents to Oaks Park, and we had childcare for them and tickets for them to go riding, and we had a barbecue. It was just a great time. But more than that, it got a lot of parents who were involved in that kind of orphan care to be able to recognize, I'm not alone.
It just seems like such a huge opportunity to get the Church of Christ to engage with folks from a different background. I mean, they're here, they're our neighbors, we want to get to know them, and we want to see the church engage with them and share the message of Jesus. So in particular, we've been reaching out to Bhutanese, Nepali refugees, teaching English, and it's an interesting, at times slow moving, but also really rewarding ministry.
One of my favorite events happened this summer when some of the amazing volunteers, the Spricks, invited all of the refugees and volunteers to their house for a potluck picnic. But they also invited the Dales, who are missionaries with Imago in Nepal and speak Nepali. And so, first of all, the completely shocked, amazed expression on some of these Bhutanese women's faces when they saw and heard this American woman speaking their language was priceless. But it was also the first time where that communication barrier was bridged. And so it was really encouraging to be there, not as teachers and students, but friends, hanging out, sharing a meal together.
So the missional grant process was definitely actually really cool and really encouraging. The coolest thing was to realize that the church is really in this with us, or even sending us out. And so going through that process, it's also kind of gotten a little bit more visibility on what the group is doing, and more people have joined it. And that's been really encouraging for us, is just to sit back and realize that this is God's movement. People are joining to it. For me, one of the best things has just been to see the motivation and the joy that people have brought to the table.
As we worship Jesus this Advent, we once again get not only to celebrate the story, but to enter the story, to embody and proclaim the love of Jesus here in Portland today.